It's time for the Other Three Amigos podcast. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.
On this week's episode of the Other Three Amigos podcast, we head straight for the sad sack instead of the mailbag as we talk about all the ins and outs of Cork City. We talk about the two disastrous games, including the poor attendances, have some players stopped giving it their all, and where does Jornash go from here? And we discuss ownership options before Declan Kerry stops me getting my dinner. All of this and more on this week's episode of the Other Three Amigos podcast. Wayne Mullins giggling at a time like this. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 23, Episode 285 in total of your multi-award winning podcast. Throw us a 5-star rating on whatever podcast platform you're listening in on. Dan Casey here, and I'm joined by my other three amigos tonight. The full squad is in the house. Wayne Mullins, Declan Kerry and Declan McCormack. Why not join us on Patreon, patreon.com/TOTAP. We're doing the best with the time we have to give you a bit of value over there, and it's €5 a month to join. Wayne Mullins, since you were giggling away beforehand, all must be right in your world, is it?
I'm on stage 9 of grief.
It's joy now, is it?
I don't know what it is at this stage. As I said to you earlier, like I was on the forum looking at posts, and the one post I'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is a disgrace," and then the next post I'd be like, "Yeah, I agree. I actually feel." Oh, I just switch every 3 minutes. It's mad stuff.
Okay, I wonder what version of Wayne we're gonna get. But Declan Kerry, what version of the arc are we getting tonight?
Oh, you are getting the original and only Rebel Chief tonight, Dan. I am in full flying form, as you've probably seen in my my Twitter post there the last couple of days. So yeah, I'm ready, willing and able.
Do you think they'd take you back, like, given the relegation thing?
They couldn't afford me at this stage, Dan, I'd say. But look, I'd consider it if...
we don't do clauses in contracts, Dick, so you're kind of stuck with us.
Yeah. There was no release clause in my TOTAP contract that I signed back in January. So look, we'll wait and see how it plays out in the winter window.
And lastly, Declan McCormack, how are you, sir?
Two lads are laughing already. I tell you, Dan, normally, like, people say I come on this and I rant and I rave and he's a cranky man and the rest of that, but I actually in good form when I'm doing that. Like, you know, I'm in as bad a form tonight as I have been in about 4 years coming on this podcast. And it's not really to do with cars. It's just like, you know, late at work. So I missed the train home, which means like I'm on a later train, which means I don't get any food before we start recording the podcast. You know, at the game yesterday, you leave like lots of City fans would have done, you know, you leave home at somewhere 7:30, 8 o'clock. You work for the day, you finish work, you maybe try to grab a bite to eat, you go to the game. It's 10:30, 11 o'clock before you're home. You're tired. Then you have that, you know, we'll get to the stuff later on. You have that. And then, as I said, you add day 2 to it then, where, as I said, I missed the train and my feet are sore as well for some reason. I'm fucking walking on my feet all day and the rest of it. And it's just like, I just feel cranky. You know, I just feel...
Would you consider cranky, like Skechers or something for the feet thing?
Listen, I'm not a chiropodist, Dan, so I don't know, to be honest with you, you know. It was just kind of, it was more of a throwaway comment. Like, I have Nike Air, like, I mean, I'm pretty... Are
you the kind of fella now who has a suit on and then walks in his runners to the train? Those that kind of people.
I don't wear a suit. Jesus Christ, I have shorts on me these days. I cover with some days anyway.
To work?
Yeah.
Do you wear them in work, like?
Yeah.
Come on, they don't allow that today.
I do, yeah.
I've done that on occasion, Wayne. No problem.
No.
My wife strongly disagrees, it should be said, like, you know, you shouldn't be wearing shorts going to work.
Like, are they shorts, or are they like Bermudas, or are they like, you know, the knee length? Like, what kind of...
Oh, but like, they're not Dan's GA shorts up around his crotch, like, you know, they're knee length, like, you know, like non-branded, non-sporting, but like, yeah, respectable knee length. Why are we even talking about this? Like, well,
I have no idea. What else do we talk about?
What does Decky work to go to work?
There's nothing else going on.
Jesus Christ.
There's people waiting for the bloodbath now, like, and they're like, would they ever shut up about their feet and
I actually don't
shorts?
feel like having a bloodbath, I'll be honest.
I don't either.
Like, there's only so many weeks you can bloodbath something, like, and then you're just becoming repetitive, like.
All right, well,
thanks for the pod, lads. See you on next week. Just like, fuck. Hope you enjoyed that.
Before we get to the bloodbath or not bloodbath, it's time for Academy Watch, first of all. Our under-20s, they lost 2-0 to Bows. Under-17s, they beat Bows 5-2. Donal O'Connor with 2, Dylan O'Connell with 1, and Shirley Hanover and Corey O'Sullivan, the other goals there. And under-15s, they lost 2-1 to Bows. And on the women's side of the house, they lost 2-1 to Shamrock up in Tala. Eva Mangan with the redeeming goal there. Declan McCormack, what did you make of proceedings?
Look, Dan, it was like the scoreline looks very positive and looks very good, and fair to the players who were on the pitch. They gave everything, very, very good performance. And we spoke about this a lot in Last Dame, so I'm not going to do it again. But Cork City named 4 substitutes, one of which was a goalkeeper. Then nothing anybody can do about it. Ciara Sennett took ill on the bus on the way up, so left 3 substitutes, one who was a keeper, so 2 outfield substitutes. One girl, Sophie Redmond, who came on and got an assist with her very first touch in the league, but she had never played a minute in the league before. Ashley McCarthy had played 10 minutes. Like, what are we doing? Like, where are we going? It's just, it's mind-boggling stuff, in my opinion. And as I said, we get into it in Last Dame a little bit, so I won't spoil the fun. But good result, good performance. But where are we going? Like, where are we going?
Will the banners be out?
Look, obviously there's not going to be any banners at the women's game. They play Peamount in the Cup next Saturday in Turner's Cross, 7:00 next Saturday night. Hopefully they can cause an upset and make the quarterfinals of the Cup and see where that takes them.
All right. Well, it's time to get into Commie Watch.
Just before that, Dan, how did the walking football team get on in their doubleheader over the weekend?
You tell me. Oh, you supposed to be sorry, you hit it up for me. You threw it up for me there, and I didn't.
Come on. It was your joke from last week. Anyway.
I know.
Commie Watch with Ivan Draco on the Other Three Amigos podcast.
We're going to shake things up on Commie Watch a little bit this time, and we're going to get straight into the mailbag. The first one here I'm looking at from IFB Media, one for the ARC, Mr. Carey. Given that we're now approaching a pivotal transfer window for the club, could he provide some insight into how he saw his role while chairman at the club in terms of player incomings and departures? How was the dynamic with force, with manager, etc.? How does that dynamic work?
Yeah, I guess, Dan, back in my time, we actually had very little to do with the individual choices of players anyway. I'll say that much. We had a very good, strong handle on the financial aspect, and Conor Halloran on the board was more close to that aspect when it came to individual transfers and just making sure it all fitted within the budgetary processes. My role specifically was more around making sure we didn't sign any bad eggs that, potentially had a bad reputation with the club or a bad reputation around the league, or, would draw negative, PR to the club. I'm sure people can think of names already off the top of their head that have played in the league over the last few years. And, obviously we were a community club and we had many charity partners and partnerships, and we were a fan-owned club. So that was a hugely important piece for us to just keep an eye on. I never really had to exercise that too frequently. I think maybe once in my time as chairman. And otherwise then, yeah, I guess if it was...
Who was it?
Oh God, I can't divulge, unfortunately.
Did he play for Waterford? And Bows?
Maybe. Can't maybe.
We couldn't have been close to that. Was that true? Were we really in for him?
No way. No way. No. Sometimes, to be honest, it would even be just a throwaway conversation.
Were they sex pests, or were they just gamblers and stuff? Or what?
No, I think just to avoid any doubt, we were categorically never in for that player, at least in my time as chairman anyway, in case anyone is speculating. But yeah, I guess look, it's a pretty boring answer then, to be honest. We left it to the manager and the footballing people involved in the decision. And if we were needed to bring in any advice that we could, sometimes we were asked for support trying to find a house or a home for a player and things like that. Use any contacts that we had available around the city if we thought there was accommodation. Asked for ideas maybe when it came to the Britain signing, how do you think we should announce this for maximum effect? Those were some of my more memorable ones. And yeah, I guess look, other than that, it was more about strategically planning. I remember in the 2022 season, especially, that's the most recent one in my memory, we had a firm plan of we'll front load the squad as much as we possibly could, but we would leave a buffer in the budget for a transfer window opportunities if they arose. And Britain was the one that we brought in then in that summer. The money was there and it was a very quick decision. We didn't have to spin or jump or have a committee meeting or anything to that. It was the money was there and it was a no-brainer to go for it at the time. Yeah, I guess it worked out pretty well. I think you just need to have a good trusting relationship with your manager, and we trusted Colin completely with signings and who we thought was a good fit for the club. And yeah, that was, I guess, in my latter years. Yeah.
What was the question again? We're doomed, but anyway, what fight? Wayne, you're looking to come in there?
Yeah, I just got a text there. Can you ask Declan what he makes of the Usher out chants? Decky.
Me? Ask me.
That's a text I got there asking for the question for the pod.
Can you ask me what do I make of the Usher out chants? It's fair game, It's I don't know why he's all of a sudden thrown in, because I was going to ask Declan Carey, did he ever go into Colin Healy and say I was playing Football Manager last night and this guy looked really impressive, I think we should have a look? Or I was watching Bose Patson, the left back there that came on for the last 15 minutes. Looks like he could do a job in the first division, but...
No, we would conversationally have things like that. We would bring Colin in occasionally, for board meetings or updates, just generally how he was getting on. I had a good one-on-one relationship with him, and he would call me if he ever needed anything, kind of on a day-to-day basis. But more often than not, that was with the staff out in Bishopstown. But he would come into board meetings, and we might chat about players that slipped through our fingers, or things like that. More conversational.
How would you scout these players, though?
How would he have scouted those players?
How would you get the names? We just randomly look on a transfer market website, or where would you get the names from?
Honestly, it's a bit of everything, Wayne. Players applying, agents. Colin as well, having a good career in England, has good contacts with various agents, and former teammates that have become agents is a big one these days. And then trying to do as much research as possible. But thankfully, I was never involved in that, to be honest. I never scouted a player, never recommended a player to the manager, never debated how much money a player should be paid, as long as we were within the budget and we had a general agreement on squad size. That was it. And then, of course, as I said, advising on any bad eggs and things like that. But thankfully, with the likes of Colin, he had so much common sense and knowledge of the club that that rarely happened anyway.
Dickie, do you want to take up Wayne's question and about the Usher out chance?
Yeah, look, Dan, I think everything's fair in love, war, and football. As I said, it's part of the course. We're bottom of the league. We've won 2 games in 22. This is going to be potentially our second relegation in 2 Premier Division seasons. I'm actually surprised it didn't happen a few games back. It happened on a Monday night in Turner's Cross with a small crowd. I think that's actually beneficial for Dermot because he knows it's coming. He's seen it. But we've seen protests in Turner's Cross with 5,000 people. We've seen the Donny Ford standing up, abusing Tommy No-Bobs, or, giving Arcaga shit. Last night was very, very small fry, in the great world of protests and anti-owner stuff that you see around the world. Last night was minuscule. The problem is it can get much bigger for Dermot, and I think nobody likes to see it, nobody is glad to see it, but it kind of had to happen as well to a degree. And I think it's going to happen more. As I said, I'm surprised it didn't happen early. I would re-emphasize and say again that like nobody should physically or verbally or anything even dream of approaching Dermot Usher or abusing Dermot Usher or abusing his kids or any of that stuff. Like none of that's on. None of that is that stuff isn't on. Like keep it to football, keep it to the Chants, keep it to the football club. It's not personal. Like don't make it personal, as I said, and don't approach the man. Don't go physically looking for altercations or any of that stuff. Like, and I don't think anybody in the City fan base would. But as a podcast and which is listened to, we have to put it out there and we have to say it. Like, that's not the way to go about things. We want to ensure that people don't. But that's free speech and protest and everything else. In my world, that's always welcome. That's always fair game, and it's something the club are going to have to deal with going forward. So I don't think it's going to go away.
Do you think now, Wayne, there's no going back now? Once this starts happening, I don't think there's any true redemption with the fans. Unless there's a massive statement maybe saying, look, there are my ways at times or things like that, came down a bit harshly on negativity. Unless there's something like that, I think it's gone forever now. The horse is well and truly bolted.
Yeah, I think there was never really a relationship between the owner and the fans. I think that's never going to really come back. But I think if we play Pats on Friday and we go 2-up in 15 minutes, those chants won't happen because we'd be too happy at winning. You know, if we lose on Friday, they're going to get louder and louder because the next home game after that will be, Leicester Celtic? And after that, I think, is it Sligo at home? So, realistically, I don't think there's going to be a camaraderie or a relationship between the fans and the owner, because I think that there's been too much water under the bridge. There's been too much said. Fans don't feel. It's like fans in general have been underestimated as football fans, not intelligent, they're worthless kind of thing. That's the impression I get. It could change. Here, go on a 15-game winning run and it's all's forgiven again. I don't think it's going to happen, though, is it? I think once it starts, it's hard to... In any club around the world, I was thinking today, is there any owner or manager even who it's turned around for? I don't know. Brendan Rodgers, maybe? Is that one who's managed to have a fan base hating him and it came back and it's worked for him? And the only reason that happens is because Celtic are on a good run. I don't know. What do you think?
Declan Kerry.
Yeah, it's a tough one, Dan. Look, at the end of the day, this is what you sign up for when you become the head of the football club. Football is a toxic environment at times when you're not winning matches and your team is performing miserably and the fans are miserable. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, it was going to eventually get to the stage where people would, stop blaming managers. Like, I haven't seen many people, chasing Tim Clancy around online or making comments on him and things like that. He's long forgotten now. Jordan Ash is getting a pass because he's so new, and it's obvious that, he's probably working under difficult circumstances now and he's waiting for the window to open so that his players can come in. And fans are just looking at the common denominator of the last couple of years, and sadly that often is, whoever's owning the club. For us at times as well, in my time, got stick from supporters, never any banners or, anything like that. But, look, on a personal level, I feel for the guy, because, look, I'm sure he's not enjoying his job at the moment, and that's the only thing I can really say from that aspect. But as a Cork City supporter, look, I'm not happy about how things are turning out. It's a couple of years ago when, I was speaking about this and this ownership and things like that, I never thought it would end this way, to be honest. But look, if I had a crystal ball back then, like, things might be different, but unfortunately, things haven't worked out for a large variety of reasons, and it's not one single mistake. But I think, as Wayne alluded to, I do think there's a cultural problem, and the club really needs to deploy a fan-first mentality now from here on out. Heads down, put the fans first. What do the fans want? that should be
like, what is the likelihood of that? Time and time again, we've been shown that is never in a million years going to happen. There was the perfect opportunity, as said by multiple people on the forum, to do the match package with the 2 games.
Yeah.
Like a goodwill gesture, not a hope. My way or the
2
highway.
games.
That's
2
all
games
we're
for
seeing.
30 quid. Or
the fans aren't take, like, we're being treated like idiots. Like,
yeah, 2 of those games for 30 quid would have been the way to go, I think.
Even 40 would do. 40 would have done. But just one point there, Declan, you mentioned there when you first started with us that you did say that eventually the fans will stop blaming managers. I think you said it about 2 months ago. And here we are. You're right. It's what's happened. And it's natural progression. Unless things change from the top, it's only going to get worse. And we don't want to see it getting worse, because we all want the same thing. We all want to stay up. We all want a great club. But you have to have a mentality of us against them. And it's us against us again. The only time we've had success is when it's us against them. And it's proven all our titles are all that. And look at us now again. We're at each other's throats, and we're rock bottom. Again, we're rock bottom.
Yeah. But you know what? When I remember, like, we were a bit like this as well in 2008, 2009. And then I know it took like an extraordinary event to bring the fans together. And that's when Forest emerged and all that stuff. And like, there was people that I remember from being up and down on buses to away games, stuff like that, wouldn't even look at each other. And I saw them inside meetings in the telecom club and places like that, arms around each other, saying like, we need to sort this out now, lads, or whatever. That's what needs to happen now at the club. There needs to be pride swallowed, and like, okay, mistakes have been made. Now, let's bring in the right people that have the right experience, knowledge, willing to help. And let's get together and try and sort this issue out. Like, there's plenty of help out there, and but I do unfortunately feel like it will never be asked for, unfortunately.
What are these protests going to look like? I mean, Pats, they're on a losing run themselves. They're only going to be creaming themselves at the thought coming down, playing us.
There's a double-edged sword to that too, Dan. Like, they're on a terrible run. We probably couldn't be playing a better team as well. They're in a terrible run of form. Is it 3 defeats on the trot? So, like, if anything, it's an easy enough team talk for Jornash, and like, he shouldn't have to motivate him too much. And Pats are in a bit of a rut. But on the other side, Pats couldn't also be playing a better team at the moment. Like, we don't seem to have any shape about us, or consistency. Our starting 11 is changing now every game. Nash is still trying to find his most favoured 11 and system. Obviously, there's players that are on loan at the club now departing, so maybe Nash is thinking probably not worthwhile now including them in the squad, maybe because they're going to be gone. He alluded to this in his post-match interview, or talking about players who are here window to window. So it sounds like he's out to maybe get those types of players, so to speak, in terms of like, your days are numbered anyway, in terms of my plans. If you're not committing to stay, and he mentioned about, Feely committing long-term, moving to Cork. Same with Faker Kelleher. So, like, from what he's saying, like, it doesn't look like we'll have consistency in our 11 either anytime soon. And that's not a good thing when you're down at the bottom of the table. Unless you're adding superior talent, which I think with Kelleher we probably are. But yeah, the jury seems to be out on Feely.
Decky, where do you think these potential protests go in a few weeks' time if we're not picking up points and we're still trailing behind Sligo, possibly even further?
I actually think there's a window. Monday night, St. Pat's, Sligo at home. And I think the window probably closes after the Sligo at home game. If we, say, go to Waterford and we lose in Waterford, the Sligo at home game is going to be a massive game, and there won't be much of a protest before or during that game, because fans are going to say, no, we need to be behind the team here. This is the last chance saloon. If we don't win that game, it would kick off after the game, without doubt. But it'll kick off after the Sligo game. I think then you drop for the rest of the season to the kind of attendances you saw last night against Drogheda, and the window closes because people just go, what's the point in protesting? What's the point in doing anything? We're effectively relegated. and they give up. So I think there's actually a window of about a month where you'll see protests. If we start winning games, the protests are going to stop because people are going to say, okay, we have a shot here. We need to get behind the team. And if we don't win games, people are just going to walk away, unfortunately. So I do think it kind of gets as far as the Sligo game. Listen, lads, the Sligo game's what, a month away? We've talked about big games.
25th of July.
Yeah, like we've talked about big games in our history. Depending on where we are when that game comes round, that will be right up there with the big games in Turner's Cross, like, you know. And
so do you think that like the protests will be as strong as just people staying at home? And that's
the worst protest of all, like.
Yeah.
It is the worst protest of all. And that's what happened on Monday night. That's what happened last night, like. And it was by far the biggest element of protest. There was just nobody there.
Yeah.
Like, I was there. The place was empty.
Yeah, 1850 called out, but again, I always shave like 15% off that 20%.
Yeah, I heard it called and I misheard it as 1300. And I saw on the forum afterwards, other people said as well, was it 1300? So I wasn't the only one who misheard it. But when they said when I thought it was 1300, I was like, yeah, it's probably about right, like, you know. But yeah, it's to stay away is the biggest protest of all. And that would be by far and away the biggest one, like, because look, as I said, get up early Monday morning. I know it's unusual, no Monday, but the same thing on a Friday. Get up early Friday, you go to work, you work all day, you go try grab a bite to eat, maybe have a pint, you go to the match. You've left home at 7:30, you're not getting home till 10:30 or 11 o'clock that night. You probably haven't seen the kids all day. The wife is cranky because you haven't come home till 11 o'clock or whatever it is. So then you're trying to make that up on Saturday. And it's tough to do week in, week out when you feel like you're being overcharged and you feel like what you're watching on the pitch isn't what you want to watch. And then you just go, oh, do you know what? No, don't fancy it tonight. I'll stay at home. And that's what happened Monday night. People just said, no, not for me, not tonight, you know. And very understandable. Very understandable. At half time, I was just sitting there going, like, what in God's name am I doing here on a Monday night? Like, I think Friday, only one, I can guarantee you that. Like,
I think Friday it'll be announced as maybe more than 2.5 because it's that Friday routine and whatever. I think the Monday is just a disaster for a lot of people. Like, anyway, we were always going to see a dip, but like, dip. But the Friday, I think like we will probably see more than 2,500.
I think so.
I think this will be the last chance saloon in a lot of people's heads. As you said, Dick, I think they'll say, you know what? Pats are in a rut. This will be Nash's, 6th game in charge. And let's see now. Like, you know, there was talks of this potential little bit of a ruckus, I suppose you could call it, or, you know, I know the Flying Bottle is a famous pub up here, the Holly Hill Inn, which is now closed down, but yeah, flying bottles in dressing rooms and things like that allegedly recently. But
you know what? That's a football dressing room. Like, that stuff needs to happen. It needs, like, there's no issue with that stuff happening if it did happen. But like, it's just, I just think the windows are small. I know you mentioned there. I just cannot believe there wasn't a ticket offer done this week. It's to me, it's mind-boggling. The club knew Monday night's attendance was going to fall through the floor. So why not bite the bullet and you know, extend? It's almost like you don't have to come out and say, like somebody said about statements, you don't have to come out and verbally say, we were wrong, we got this wrong. You can do it in your actions. You can say, all right, lads, look, anybody going Monday night and Friday night can go to the 2 games for 30 quid, 35 quid, 40 quid, whatever it is. And everybody goes, oh, well, there's a little give back from the club. But it does appear as if it's just the club. Like, there was an opportunity, it was openly spoken about. There's no way people at the club didn't suggest doing ticket deals. Like, I find it impossible to believe that nobody at the club said, you know what, we should do a ticket deal here. And whoever made the decisions decided no. And to me, there's a little element of doubling down in that. And, you know, this is it. This is the way we're going. And not everything has to be a massive statement, but sometimes when you see things like that, you're going, okay, yeah, they're doubling down here now. And it's long term, it's probably not going to work.
Has that 5-game pass kind of gone now as well?
It's gone as
I
well.
understand.
It seems to have just disappeared quickly, silently.
We used to release it like every home game was it for the next 5 games or whatever. It was confusing anyway. Like, but yeah, I don't think there's been a package advertised for like the next 5 games. There probably miraculously will be now a few hours after this pod is released. But yeah, like yeah, even then that would have been a nice one, Deck. Like, you know, do a 5-game pass, like 5 games for 80 quid or something, you know, something like that.
Like you would have been taken in, so it would have been Drogheda, St. Pat's, Leicester in the cup, but you probably can't put them in then because they're entitled to half the gate. And yeah, you know, so there's other complications.
Yeah, but league games anyway, you know. Look, but anyway, yeah. So
Wayne, the banner itself, Nero fiddled while Rome burned 3 seasons in. F all learned. It was a lot more cutting than I guess.
I was saying last night I nearly get that tattooed in my arse. It's so good. It's perfectly said. I think it came from one of
the longer banners I've ever seen. One of the longer banners I've ever seen. Fair play. I was actually talking to someone about this today. The effort that went into that and like the stitching and the font and everything is perfect. Like I just fair play. From an artistic perspective. Anyway, moving on. Sorry, Wayne.
Very good. It was very good, and here it's better than just saying out or whatever. Or it was just eloquently put. That's the word to use. Well done, C84. I'm assuming it was C84, was it? If it's not,
I think Cork City Brigade was it? They were.
I think so.
I noticed a few of their heads underneath holding it up, but look, anyway, I don't know, to be honest. But fair play to whoever did it. If you want to.
Sorry, you're typing away in there. Killian, this is our Patreon questions now, says, can we call it the sad sack instead of the mailbag? I think that's probably what
we're not calling it the bag anymore anyway. It's gone.
No. Anthony, what realistically happens if Usher was to leave? I understand the frustration, but I just don't know what the alternative is. Decky.
I think there's always alternatives. You hear this a lot about the workplace and things like that. Oh, if your man leaves, who's going to replace him? Like, he knows all this shit. He knows there's always somebody out there. Like, there's always somebody out there. League of Ireland is in a boom. People want to buy League of Ireland clubs. You get multi, club ownership stuff. I know it's tripped Drogheda up badly in terms of the European stuff, but like, I think it's madness to suggest or to think that nobody would take Cork City Football Club off Dermot Usher's hands. In fact, I would be very, 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 very confident that there are people out there who would take the club off his hands if he was willing to sell it. Genuine.
Who, Dick?
At worst, if there wasn't, the agreement is for us take it back for €1 debt free, as as far as I know.
Yeah.
So
but nobody wants to see that. Like, to be honest,
I don't know. I know it was bonfire night last night, but whatever way I was looking up to the sky in the horizon, it could have been the smoke from the bonfires, or it could have been my blurry vision, could have been the few cans I had maybe over the weekend. But I could see the letters ORC just emblazoned towards Turner's Cross direction. And I just thought, you know what? I think I might drop a message to my old 5 comrades from the old board of management and, see how they're getting on. But anyway.
You know how much time I have for you, Jack. You know how much I love you, boy. But your fucking ego is off the charts, man. It's the biggest, the best I've ever come across in my life. Like,
Jack, I've been watching the WWE since I was 5 years old. I can cut a promo like no other. Like, Jesus, I mean, come on.
Oh, lads, I could do the relegation stuff to death, like just to try get you down to a level whereby it's like
I sleep easy.
Let's just try and bring him down a level, like But
I sleep easy. I sleep easy.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like which is a great way to be. Absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I think there's people out there who would take the club off Dermot in a heartbeat. No problem.
Who do you think if you pick a random name now, just a random name out of thin air? Who would you choose?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's the Zeus connection is there the whole time. Like, I don't know whether Brian O'Sullivan has any interest in owning football clubs or not. Like, but he speaks openly. He's mentioned how his kids love it. How they've extended. Actually, we're in Commie Watch. They've extended their sponsorship deal for another period of time, which is brilliant news. Fantastic. It's a Forest legacy. That sponsorship deal, to be fair to Forest, and it's still going strong. And Brian has openly said somewhere, I read him saying that his kids love to see the Zooks logo on the Cork City jersey, and he, you know, the man's a very wealthy man. Fair play to him. He's sponsoring it because his kids love to see that. That's fantastic. I just hope someday his kids go to Dad, we'd love if you won the football club, you know. And he goes, all
That
right,
worked out
okay,
before.
just for you guys, I'll do it. Like, you know.
This might sound like absolute brown nose, to be honest, but I've met very few men as impressive as him, to be honest. Just purely from it, like when you meet the guy, like he's just so down to earth. Like he just chats away, like, you know, it's complete, which is completely surprising when you meet a guy that's so successful. He's won Entrepreneur of the Year and all this stuff, and he's just seen as this like entrepreneurial genius in Ireland and further beyond than that. Like he's known internationally, and he's just so down to earth and so genuine and such a nice fella. But anyway, what's the story with this Livingston guy or something, or some guy from Cork that, you know, potentially
anything about him? Some lad from Ballycotton or something. One that he owned Livingston once upon a time.
Sure, Dermot Desmond's from Cork, like, and he's off at Rovers, so you know.
Yeah, you know, lads. But as I said, with multi-club ownerships and everything else, there's thousands of people out there with money who would
I have a question, right? If Red Bull knocked on our door, right? Hello, right? Would you take Red Bull Cork City? Would you accept it?
They ruined the Leeds United jerseys with their ugly logo. No chance. No chance in hell.
100%. No,
Everyone's got a
right
price.
now, 100%.
I'd take it.
I should do the $1 Million Man laugh there today. Fair play.
You'd have lads parachuting into the stadium. Forget the Domino's crossbar challenge. You'd have like Travis Pastrana motorcycling doing backflips in the middle of the cross, like. So you could probably do it in the piles of bird shit in the Jacks at the moment. But look, Wayne, who would you like to take over?
Red Bull,
lads are getting
100%.
way off the
Signing dotted line, Red Bull. Gotcha.
Fuck's sake.
Sorry, it's just me and Wayne's time now after the two deckies went on for a half an hour.
So when Danny had a bit of a chat. I wouldn't be into multi-ownership. I wouldn't be into multi-ownership after what happened to Drogheda. They got shafted big time. But if it's the way football is going. That's the problem. It's the way football is going. And you could see City being a feeder club of Europe or something. You could see it happening. Better devil you know, I suppose, as well. We could end regretting wanting Usher to sell up, you know. You don't know, like.
Sean O'Sullivan, I hate to say it, but we can't lose Usher. If he were to leave, we would be in bigger shit. When we go down, do Keats and Shawnee stay? Do they both go? Or if only one stays, who do you prefer? Very briefly, Decky, what do you think happens there if we do go down with them?
Can I just say, because we're on the subject, and just to continue the last word on this, the best outcome by far for everybody is Dermot Usher staying in place and things changing and things turning around and Dermot making a success of the club, not just off the pitch, but on the pitch also. That I still think that's the best outcome. Whether that's achievable or not, it's probably not. Look, you have to presume last time we went down, Keats went. And look, to be fair, he was back 6 months later. I think Shawnee would be a goner. Shawnee's going to be on good money. Keats is on good money, but, you know, I think Shawnee would be... I don't think Shawnee would play in the first division, to be honest with you. And B, I don't think...
he'd be on the first bus up to Galway.
Yeah, we couldn't pay him. We couldn't pay him to play in the first division.
Yeah, but Keats wouldn't be gone. He'd be coming back for a big injury.
I think Keats would hang around. Yeah, I think Keats would be around.
He'd get a new contract, smaller wage, probably get a goal bonus, and he'd be our leader himself. And Sean Murray'd probably stay. Like majority of those lads would be staying, and we'd probably get Coffey, Coleman back. This is what's going to happen. Like, and would you blame us for doing it? I wouldn't, because I don't know.
Would Coffey and Coleman leave a Premier Division club to come down and play First Division with us?
Speaking of which, Roy O'Sullivan says, I think this is a good one. Would we prefer automatic relegation or to be relegated in the playoff against Dundalk or Cove? Wayne, your face.
Playoff, because
you have to pick one, Dick. It's one of those questions. Like, you can't say neither.
Playoff,
it's like, you know,
then playoff. I think we shit.
Yeah, because
but you're still losing. That's the question. You're still losing to them. Like, you're losing to Cove in a playoff. So there's PR
So
aspects to that. And
at this stage,
you
no,
know.
I can give a shit about who we lose to or what. Like, I mean,
It's a
You have to
question.
look
It's
at-
only hypothetical.
You have to
Okay,
love the
I
misery. Like,
understand.
when people get antidepressants when they're depressed, right? And people get like tablets when they have OCD. Misery makes me happy. So I think by the playoff, it'd be so much more misery than going down automatically. I'd be in a great place. That's me. Yeah. Playoff.
Luke says or asks, 3 players win the league right now who you would go all out to get if you were Usher. Decky, let's face it, you probably watch the league the most.
It's hard because, like, we need like, if Daniels is going, which we presume he is, then we need attacking players. Now, is this just any 3 players in the league, or like 3 that
presume-
would
Yeah,
be
no,
available?
realistic.
No, I'd say he said go all out. So like, imagine if
both,
we had to
do
pay
both, Declan.
fees, or imagine if we,
Like,
if
then
money
you
was no
have,
object.
like,
Half
Matt
of Shamrock
Healy.
Rovers.
Matt Healy then is the most obvious of all time, like, because we need somebody in midfield who can put their foot in the ball and pick a pass and open a team up and do those things. Like, so Matt Healy's the most obvious of all. We need a striker, Podrick Almond at Waterford. Like, I know he's nearly 70, like, but he's probably still the best striker in the league. Like, Pat Hoban is going to be available in July. Pat Hoban is 100% available in July. Do you take him?
Richie Towell's available.
Towell's back playing Leinster Senior League.
Doesn't
like,
matter.
I mean,
He's better than what we have, and he's probably
um,
fitter than anyone we have.
I know they might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I'd start with the Cork lads like Matt Healy, Josh Honan, and Adam O'Reilly, and
But
that
realistically,
Brandy
like,
fella.
you're not going to
Brandy
get
fella
them.
that plays with Galway. And I know, but he just said if you have to go all out to get him, like, I'm sure we could.
I'd go for Aaron Green. I know it sounds. I hate him. Like, as in, I don't rate him, but I think he'd be suit us very well. And probably your man last night, the keeper I hate, Dennison, to replace Troost.
like, if you're talking about realistic, Gary O'Neill is one that's his name has been floating around on loan. He's the old, like, he can't come down to Cork. He has a house in Dublin and whatnot, but he is a Kerry lad originally. It's a name that's been floating around. Trevor Clark's another name that's kind of been floating around, maybe on loan, but I couldn't see Clark leaving Shamrock Rovers now, because if Josh Honohan goes to England, which the assumption is that he will, they have no cover on that side. Like, Trevor Clark then becomes the kind of the starting left-sided wing back. So, we've had some new contacts to Shamrock Rovers who said 2 weeks ago that they believed both were, the club wanted to get minutes into both, but Clark has played a bit since. I think Gary O'Neill is it looks like he's on his way out of there. So, look, as somebody again who can play that central midfield role, I think it's, the more I watch us, the more obvious it becomes to me that that's a huge issue for us in there. And, like, obviously we know defensively, but we have to solve that central midfield issue. Like, yeah, there's a few there I think that are doable. Like, is there a keeper in this country? As you said, I think you can take one of the Bows keepers out of Bows, depending on which one you want, which either one of the two you fancy. I think you can take one of the two out of Bows, to be honest with you. They're much of a much, let me just see now. Yeah, Charaska started last night, so Talbot's on the bench. I think Talbot will be available from Bows because he's going to be looking for minutes. So he's another one realistically within the league that could come in and do a job. So there are players around there. Again, you get the whole thing. Will they leave Dublin? Will they come to Cork? Blah, blah, blah. We have to pay them more. There's a premium. There's a lot of it involved. But look, to be fair, Rory Feely, Fiacre Kelleher, seems like there's a willingness. We paid a fee for Feely, so it seems like there's a willingness to spend money. So, let's see what happens.
Checkbook is out. That's clear. Anyway, that's clear as day. The checkbook is out.
Yeah. But, I mean, we all know what the criticism of that is going to be, and I don't want to say it.
Ham asks, no more clauses has turned out to be nonsense. I'd be interested to know if the chairman can speak about historical contracts and any relegation clauses, in brackets, releasing players, wage decreases, etc.
Yeah, I never had any relegation clauses in my time. Surprisingly, hardy her. But the only clauses I can speak of that we had would have been maybe young players signing their first professional contract, and we might put in like a sell-on clause and things like that, or minimum release clauses, as we had for a few players that left not too recent enough, I suppose. So, it'd be more along those lines. The only one I'm sort of aware of, I guess, was like maybe Keating's one recently, as we talked about earlier, where he left at the end of the relegation season 2023.
Yeah, Billy Dorney, referring to tonight's pod, the lads tried really hard versus Drogs, but it's glaringly obvious we're so devoid of talent all over the pitch that they may as well be trying to climb Everest and stay up with this group. We need a root and branch cull. It's all good to be in the Premier Division if we're destined to fail each time we gain promotion. We're now officially a yo-yo club, and that's bloody hard to swallow. Wayne, are we now a yo-yo club?
I just want to go back to the start of that we played really well last night. Am I the only one thinking we didn't play well?
No, I thought we were terrible. I'll be honest.
Like, if we didn't score an equaliser, it would have been the same shit every week. I don't think we played that well. Do we play better? Yes, because Drogheda were penned in more. But
he said they really tried rather than played well, to be fair.
It's if you're a football player, it's minimum requirement is to try, Dan. Like, we really tried. Well done, lads. You tried. God love you. No, I'm sorry. No, football's more than that. And I think, against the Pats game later, I'll let Declan take over, or Declan there now because I'm getting annoyed again.
Yeah, like I thought, like, just in terms of that, look, they tried, and they definitely tried a bit for the last 10 minutes. I actually felt like a goal was coming. I don't know why, like, they seemed to just put a bit more pressure on Drogs, and I thought Drogs were starting to make some silly mistakes, and they eventually did, which led to a fantastic cross from Josh and great finish from Daniels. But like, Drogheda, I said it in our group there last night, close to half time. What an easy training match of a defensive performance they just had to put on. Like, we huffed and puffed and blew no houses down. Like, it was just like they were just strolling around there at the back, clearing everything with ease, no problem, no threat. We were easy to defend against, and I wouldn't even have called it a defensive masterclass, even though I know that's their sort of their specialty anyway, to sit back, absorb and counterattack and whatnot. But look, I thought we were poor enough, except maybe for the last 10 minutes. And I just wish we would have seen more of that throughout the game, to be honest. Good old Wayne's 4-4-2, get the ball in the box, score. Easy peasy, isn't it?
Darren Murphy asks, is there a player that doesn't have a release clause, it seems, at this stage? Look, we're under pressure for time already, so I may as well we'll drive it on. And then Philly says, is it ignorance or stupidity that that has this club still so out of touch with what's going on? The on-pitch performance seems to be second fiddle to events, merchandise, and cheap acts and content for likes. Back to Twitter. Ian Crowley, would the ARC ever get involved in an ownership modelling out?
I love this football club, Dan, and if someone ever reached out to me to help in any way, shape or form, I absolutely would, and I would never say no unless it was like something completely ridiculous or ludicrous. I've done pretty much everything from dress up as Corky to be the chairman of the club and run the website and social medias and God only knows what. And got us promoted. He left us tax compliant, cleared all the legacy debts.
Hang on.
Grovemore cleared the legacy debts, didn't it?
Facilitated, whatever way you wanted to say it. What's the corporate term for what we did? Like, I don't know.
I noticed the signage on the side of the pitch with the wrong crest is finally gone.
Excellent.
Finally.
Yeah.
After it had been pointed out by some social media guru, vlogger, content creator about 2-3 years ago.
Oh God. Yeah. Look, no, I would get involved if it was the right approach.
If Usher asked you in for some advice, what would be the first thing you'd say to him?
I just said, like, look, Dan, I'd obviously hear him out, and I've met Dermot a couple of times since the takeover, and we've always seemed to get on relatively okay most of the time.
Have you met him since he joined us?
No, not to my knowledge. So that would be an interesting one, I'm sure. But I highly doubt it's likely anyway, since I have joined TOTAP. I think we're not all naive enough to think that he's going to pick up the phone and call a member of the pod and ask for help.
Okay, but if you were in there, what advice would you give?
Just, as I said earlier, swallow the pride. As Decky alluded to earlier, there's ways that you can come out and, you don't have to admit publicly that you've made mistakes and things like that. You can just start to correct them and just move forward, put the fans first, take a different lens with every decision. There's a couple of quick things you could execute, as we alluded to, like cheaper ticket prices, drum up some support, put on a night for supporters or something like that, like to blow off some steam, all expenses paid, those types of things. Organise a bus to away games indirectly, and don't charge fans, things like that. There's plenty of different things you could do.
When you said things to be executed quickly, I was like, geez, that's the four of us gone anyway.
I know,
the Donny Ford Ultra Mega Sergeant Platoon always struggle with this one. Usher out, €25, you're having a laugh, and we want our club back chants are all spot on. But do you think that you're not fit to wear the shirt was right yesterday in particular? Which specific players was that aimed at, and precisely what for Wayne? What did you think of it?
Not during the match. I don't think it's right. I do think a lot of these players have checked out, which is a shame. But trying and effort is the minimum requirement of being a footballer for this football club. I just don't see. We're not going to name players, obviously. Everyone knows who they are, I think. No, it's not right. Stick to the stuff that's about football, as in, oh, jeez, you got me in this one, Dan. You got me on this one. I don't have an answer for you.
Decky, do you have an answer for me?
I pretty much agree with Scotty. I think, like, you're not fit to wear the shirt is a very, very specific chant, I think. That is reserved for, in my humble opinion, it's reserved for somebody like a Jace Cavilla, for example, who comes in, takes your cash, doesn't try a yard, plays the fake hard man, gets himself booked in injury time to try and pretend he's interested, sits in the post after a relegation playoff final defeat, goes in, throws his mouth around the dressing room, and is lucky to get out alive. For me, that's the kind of professional, in inverted commas, who fits the "you're not fit to wear the shirt" mantra. I struggle to believe that any of the players who played last night fit that "you're not fit to wear the shirt" one. But having said that, we've won 2 games out of 22 all season. Fans are extremely, extremely frustrated, extremely annoyed. And it's going to come out like that. Like, I mean, every time there was a mistake made, 25 quid, you're having a laugh. It's natural. It's probably, if you want to sit down and analyze it, it's probably not going to improve the performance of the players on the pitch, But it's pure frustration, and I still think that those chants are all really aimed at the ownership. But you don't spend all your time singing about the ownership or chanting about the ownership. So you let the ownership know by kind of turning on the players, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, we're frustrated, so this player's made a mistake. 25 quid, you're having a laugh. Like, that's not about the players. That's about ownership and pricing models and everything else. So, Jornash has a bit of this going on at the moment as well. And I saw his piece in the Examiner. He obviously spoke after the game. And he was like, I understand the fans' frustration, but the ownership group has really backed me since I came in. And Jer's walking a very narrow line because he can't be seen to turn on the fan base, but obviously he can't be seen to turn on his employer. So he has to walk, and it's very, very difficult to do. He has to walk a very, very thin and narrow line, whereby he doesn't upset his boss, but he doesn't upset the fan base either. And as I said, that's very, very difficult. And the players are in the same situation. And look, I know, when the ticket prices were announced, players made their views known to the club that these ticket prices are unfair. They're too expensive. The players, in some form or another, I don't know who went, I don't know who they spoke to, but I know some players at least made their views known. I don't know were they represented the whole squad, was it just individual views, but I do know that they spoke to somebody in the club or let people at the club know that they thought this was a mistake and it was too expensive. So we all turn on each other. This is what happens. Different groups of fans turn on each other. All the fans turn on the ownership. Some fans turn on the managers. Some fans turn on the players. And as Scotty said, it never works. It doesn't work. And that's not criticizing the fan group, because if I was in the shed last night, I 100% would have joined in. 100%. So it's just we have to be careful not to push it too far, and you're not fit to wear the shirt is really a very specific chant, I think, that should be reserved for very, very, very specific individuals in Cork City's history. And I don't think any of those players last night really fit the mantra for that chant.
You have to understand. A few of those players have checked out. Like they're looking after themselves. I'm sorry, I know it might be a bit harsh, but
yeah.
You don't just drop off in talent. And yeah, I know we're still playing not the greatest, but there's a few players there who were head and shoulders above everyone else, and they've dipped. That's not form, in my opinion. So there are a few players who probably do deserve that a little bit. Not to the extent of your example, but like, we're in shit here. And this is why I think we're going to lose the Pats next week, because these players are still here.
And like
this week.
You have to say as well, from a lot of people's perspectives when they go into that ground, and it's a lot of them, to be honest, they're not on forums, they don't look at X, they probably don't listen to this podcast. No, that's very, very few, I know. But like, they just care about what happens on the pitch, and we're losing games and we're on a terrible run, and they just say, do you know what? You're not winning games. You're bottom of the table. We were losing 1-0. Thankfully, we got a bit of a reprieve at the end to prolong the agony win, as you would call it. But like, to a lot of people, they just go into Turns Cross. They expect to see a winning team, a Cork team that represents Cork, that, shows a bit of pride, doesn't let teams like come down like Drogheda and, comfortably maintain a 1-0 lead for 85 minutes or whatever it was. And they're not happy with it. And look, I suppose an element of it as well is a younger type of fan who, they're in it for the glory. They want to see a winning team as well for their TikTok videos and all that. Like, there's all elements of that. And to be honest, the majority probably don't know the ins and outs of the ownership and the transitions and things like that. And like, I see even like people who might not even be too savvy with social media there. I replied to one there about an hour ago making these like weird statements about like myself and stuff that I did when I was chairman. And it was all from years before I was even chairman. It's like, I wasn't even involved when all that was happening. I was like, people just don't have a clue. They don't read into it as much as us, because we're like obsessive a little bit about things at times. And that's just obviously our niche. But to a lot of fans, it just matters about the results on the pitch, how the players are performing. We were poor. We weren't creating chances. And I think the fans were well within their rights to chant that as well. And look, the majority of the negativity was directed towards the club brass, as we'll call it. But yeah, the players are not immune from criticism.
Connor asks, we're doomed. But anyway, what 5 City players would make up the most entertaining WWE ladder match?
Shawnee Maguire, Rory Keating, Charlie Lyons. Who else was in there?
You already had this pre-planned, like I know you did, because you liked the thing on Twitter.
Sean Murray, surely.
Who else was in the Rob Roy? Separate point. No, allegedly.
That's bad.
I'm only having a bit of crack. I love a lot of those guys, to be honest. She said, look, we've
right,
had
the Dogger. Well done to the lads in the shed with the banner. 3 years of mismanagement by our so-called leader. He promises the world and gave us shit. My question is, if when Usher leaves, is that the end of Cork City? I've seriously had enough of this club. It's a horrible thing to say. Briefly, because it kind of, we went over
No.
Is it the end?
It's not the end, no. And look, football is peaks and troughs. I know, Wayne, you're probably going to jump in and say maybe it is the end, the club is dead and things like that. But look, there's different generations of supporters now and things like that. Look, I thought when we got relegated in 2023, I was like, oh my God, like no one's going to come out in 2024. And they did. And, I think it just takes a few wins and a bit of positivity and a little bit of a buzz and winning games out in the cross to renew a bit of interest. And, it's a generational thing. I think for the likes of us, maybe when we're thinking, yeah, do you know what, can't take this anymore. But no one person is bigger than the club, and this is Cork's longest serving League of Ireland club now, and I think it will persevere regardless of who the owner is.
Ian Crowley asks, do you realistically see this turning around, Decky?
Sorry.
No, it's hard. Like, it is hard. No, like, it's really hard. And the biggest problem is, by the time the transfer window opens, there's only 16 games left. Is it? There's 16, isn't it?
15.
So there's too many. The season is front loaded. And we said this at the start of the season, and the point was made 2 or 3 times. The season is front loaded. It's very, very difficult to rescue a season in the midsummer break or in the mid-season transfer market, because, like us, we're 4 points off Sligo now because Sligo won last night. Like, it's not gone, because of course you can pick up 4 points on Sligo. The problem is they signed a player like Paddy McLean during the week from one of the northern clubs, right? Same lad who almost broke Shawnee's leg in a pre-season game in Waterford. 23, was it? No, 23. 2017.
Going into the 2017 season.
Yeah, 2017. What did you say? 23. And then proceeded to mock Shawnee and his brother James, and that goal that was at Everton at the time, the centre-back, what was his name? Come on, played for Ireland. Nearly died at an Irish training session, broke his rib, punctured his lung. Anyway, somebody will Google it and come out, just can't, just blown and blank. All piling in on social media, mocking and laughing and whatnot. He won't get any welcome in Turner's Cross when they come down with. He'll get a welcome one that's deserved, but he's a poor player, right? In the greater scheme of things. But what he is he's one of these guys. He's battle hardened, and he loves a scrap, and he loves a messy game, and he'll clear balls all day, and he won't play football with it, but he'll knock him out over the line, and he'll defend, and he'll do those things.
Patrick McLean.
Yeah, and they're almost like the kind of players you sign to just keep you up. Do you know, that kind of a way? And Sligo have done this now the previous 2 years, and they've stayed up both times. They kind of know what they're doing. They know the kind of player they're looking for. And we are 4 points behind them. Then you have to win a playoff if you finish above them. It's very, very, very difficult. But of course you can pull back 4 points in Sligo. Of course you can. So it's not all over, But that only gets it to a playoff.
We can't get to Waterford, though. We do realise that, don't we? We can't get to Waterford.
At best, we're finishing 9th at this stage.
Yeah.
That's a given.
Yeah.
Right, Owen Kelly says, not really a question, I don't think, but we need someone who's actually willing to spend money in charge of the football club, someone who just wants to leave a legacy by building a stadium for 10,000 fans and building a training facility, so the club saves money instead of spending on facilities. Then you can
build. Sky stuff.
Ian Crowley says, can we hit restart, Dylan? With again, anti-Usher thoughts on the anti-Usher chants. Val Maguire says the recent signings. Feely in the door. Wayne, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, look, they obviously have an intent of signing players. The checkbook's been open, but we need more than those two. We have to have 5, 6, 7 players, I think. Otherwise, waste of time.
Garrett the bad boy Barry. Usher out and get Brian Lennox in now. Is the Lord of the Manor lying low or what? Has anyone seen or heard from him?
Brian enjoys retirement.
Yeah. He just jacked in the chipper just to have a peaceful retirement and all that. I think the last thing he wants or needs is the burden of a League of Ireland club.
Well, as always, Brian Lennox was in Turner's Cross last night, But it's madness. Like everybody's like, are all fans' bases like ours? Like where you just look back to previous Cork City players, they're the only ones you want to sign. Previous Cork City board members, they're the only ones you want on the board. Previous Cork City chairman, they're the only ones you want running the club. Like there's a whole world of players, talented business people, good football operators. The world is full of them, they don't all have to be previous Cork City,
No. I wouldn't put Brian Lennox in that same bucket though. Dick. His time as owner was some of the most memorable
Brilliant.
moments ever. And
Absolutely
that's what
fantastic.
People get nostalgic and they think, right,
Fantastic.
he's still there. He's still going to the cross. He's retired now. He has a nice wad of cash in the bank, I'm sure. Sorry, Brian. But yeah.
I remember Hammerby away. We lost 1-0 away. We went out of Europe, and Brian Lennox was in the stand with us, and everyone was shouting at him, saying how it was a disgrace, how Lennox out. That's how far we've fallen. Like, this was Hammerby away in the Europe. Was it the Europa League or was it Champions League qualifier? Europa League. That's how far we've fallen. Like,
yeah, that was UEFA Cup. Yeah.
But this is what I mean about, like, Dermot Usher has no idea what a proper protest looks like. Like, do you know? Last night was, in comparison, as you said, Hammerby away, we're in Europe, we lose, and fellas are abusing Brian Lennox left, right, and centre. Like, you know, we've seen the banners unfurled in Turner's Cross when we were second and third in the league. And lads are like, oh, Lennox can't take us anymore, he doesn't have any more money. Like, you know?
Colin says, Sligo one. Do we go Rob Roy? John M says, does Damien Delaney go to the cross? Don't sit.
He was there last night.
He was
There's a
there
picture
last
of him.
night.
Hold on. But I've yet to see him. Is he continuing the weekly debriefs with Nash like he did with Tim? Surely it's time Usher cuts ties with the bluffer, which Virgin got him on their LOI coverage and quizzed him. He was there last night, looking fairly forlorn by all accounts.
But you know what, right? The one thing I would say good about Delaney, and Decky, don't trump me yet, right? He's staying in the background. He's not getting involved. He ain't going for in the media going, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. It's how people behind the scenes of a football club should act. Staying in the background, going to matches. You shouldn't even know what they look like, these lads.
I think there's an element to that too.
That's my only
And in my opinion, I think there's an element of it. He wants to be remembered as the Premier Division defender that had such a good career with Crystal Palace and all that. And I think he doesn't want to be seen to be involved with a League of Ireland sideshow act, which a lot of those Dublin media, Virgin media, when they're showing Champions League games,
by me,
stuff like that. Like, and that tweet there that says which Virgin got him on and quizzed him. They're never going to do that. They don't. Like, some of those guys hosting shows, and look, this is no slight on Virgin Media. I actually enjoy their coverage, and they put a great effort into when they host League of Ireland games, and more power to them. And I hope more of that continues. But they're never going to bring him on and quiz him and interrogate him about his participation in the transfer committee or how he's the mentor or whatever, or the coach to the first team manager. And they're not going to get into those weeds with him at all. Never.
Colin says the end is near. And then Derek Cotter, with Sligo improving, I think we are seriously shagged. Thoughts in the general atmosphere at the club at the moment. Carney have been there. Gene O'Keefe, although I do think it might be Dermot's burner account, too much toxic negativity around the club, disgusted at the behaviour of the shed end towards the players. And that concludes our mailbag. We still have 2 games to get through as well, lads. I
think Decky there is waiting to say something. He's just kind of.
I'm just going to say, like, that last tweet there. Like, to be fair, we have to give that air. Like we have to balance things as well. People have different views. Like, there are people out there who think Dermot's done a stellar job, and he's just been very unlucky with injury and things like that. Like, you know, when
there is,
like, I was fair. Like, you know,
I was at the game. You'll be surprised, to be honest, and you know, I'm sure if he's listening to this, it's definitely not all negative. Like, I was at the game. What was it, the Shell's home game, and I was in the quote-unquote VIP section, and you know, there was a few people there that, like, you know, long-term City match goers, and they were, like, you know, praising the funding that the ownership was giving the club and trying hard and that kind of stuff. And look, that's their opinion, and that's maybe they've put a bit more visibility into things than I do, and people who are very close to it obviously will be very passionate, and they have their loyalties as well. So, like, look, yeah, you're spot on, Dick. You have to give balance, and, you know, as I said earlier, I'm sure this is not an enjoyable time for Dermot and the rest of the club's ownership, and you know, I'm
sure it's not, but there's just been a complete doubling down on everything as well. So I don't think that helps either.
As I said, there just needs to be some sharp corrections as soon as possible.
All right. That concludes the first half, TOTAP. Come back to us in the second half, where we're apparently going to have the Shamrock and Drogheda reviews as well as the St. Pat's preview. Enjoy.
Okay, listen up, toe tapper. Do you love us? Do you sit back and wait every week for the pod to drop? Do you close your eyes and listen to our dulcet tones? If you have answered yes to any of these, we need you to show us the love financially. There are costs involved in creating this multi-award-winning podcast. And if you aren't already a Patreon, then it's time to stop being a freeloader. For as little as $5 a month, you will get weekly exclusive pods. There's access to data, a member section of our website, special early bits of the normal pod, and you can have direct one-to-one access to us with new benefits also on the way. So head to patreon.com/TOTAP and sign up now.
Welcome back to part 2, Toe Tapper. Lads, I guess we'll just ball them all into one, and you kind of forget about the Friday game, even though it was a disaster it was. We'll briefly touch on it. Declan Carey, what did you think of the 4-1 against Shamrock?
The only positive I can take from it is Nolan might get a bit of a confidence boost from his goal, maybe. Like, again, I'm just trying to give some balance here. Like, we were poor. It shows, again, how far behind we are in terms of, like, quality in the starting 11 and the bench as well that we would need to have to be competing at that end of the table. You saw the players that Rovers were bringing on there when they were emptying the bench. And, again, I don't think there's a lot to be said for that. It was a bad day at the office. Fair play to the couple of dozen fans who travelled up. And you know what? Are the exiles that made it across the awful Dublin traffic to get to the game.
I actually forgot that apparently Shamrock felt so bad for our fans. They fed them.
Wasn't Shamrock. That was just the food.
It was just
van.
one of the food trucks.
Yeah, it wasn't the club. It wasn't Shamrock Rovers.
Yeah,
it was just
instead
the
of
food van.
dumping the food, they probably gave it to the City fans. Which, look, fair enough. It's a nice gesture, in fairness, for away fans. That's a good thing to see, because that's what the League of Ireland's all about, like, isn't it? Like, we're at each other's throats for 90 minutes of the game and stuff like that. But like, not everyone is evil out there, and we are all people at the end of the day who've made a 3 or 4 hour journey to these games. So fair play to that food vendor, whoever it is. I'd love to find out the name of them so that we could give him a mention. But yeah, like, other than that, then, like, look, fair play to the fans for travelling up and persevering. But we just had nothing for Shamrock that night, and there's not a lot to say about it, really. Except, as I said, Nolan probably, in fairness to him, he actually grabbed the ball and he ran back to the centre circle, which is something I didn't see us do last night. Note to anyone else who scores goals and we're either equalising or taking the lead. Or, like, if you're taking the lead, take your time celebrating. But, like, an equaliser or trying to claw back a deficit, you race back to the centre circle. For the love of God, what is wrong with the modern player these days? Like, Jesus, you do that in a 5-a-side game, like on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, well, they want to go over for the photo, so Kevin Barry Dorley takes it for the Instagram.
Yeah, for your agent and for your Instagram reel and your, put yourself out there and whatever. I mean, come on, like that's as bad as the Rob Roy stuff for me, to be honest. It is.
Will you stop?
Nah, like, come on now. When fans are in the Donny Ford shouting at the player to get back to the halfway line to put the ball on the spot so we can kick off, and there was about a minute or two left. Now, I know Shawnee got a half chance towards the end. I think that was a very tricky chance. He was too far ahead of it and the ball wasn't right for him, whatever. But, like, come on, like, get the ball and get on with it. Not run into the corner flag celebrating like we had just got into the FA Cup final or something. Like, for God's sake. So fair play to Nolan for doing the basics right, putting away his chance, nice finish, and getting the ball back. Even though it was embarrassing enough because we were 4-0 down, he still did it. And you know what? Fair play to you. Other players take note.
Wayne Mullins, at least we can celebrate Nolan taking the ball back. What did you make of the Shamrock game?
That was embarrassing. That was shocking. I thought it was terrible. Everyone did. We were down 1-0 down after, was it 6 minutes? Come on, like. I didn't take much from it at all. I didn't, like. There's nothing else to take from it. I don't know. Like, what else can you take from that game? We lost 4-1 to Shamrock away. We were beaten before we got there. No fans had any hope in it. The only bad thing was the -3 was 5-1 and people lost out on it. That's about it, really. Like, with very few fans there. Draw is worse, I think. Anyway.
You should address this because, there was people, I thought it was pretty pathetic, saving voice notes from you from months ago saying Rovers were busted flush and all that. What are your... I'm not going to... This isn't me now trying to say, you were wrong, Dick, but like...
Come here, but sure, I was wrong, but sure, who cares, like... and it wasn't voice notes, it was off the podcast. It was
I know.
It was the podcast.
I know it off your voice, yeah.
Like, I think it's funny. I think it's funny because, like, here's the thing. Like, that night, obviously, was the Monday night after the game was cancelled. So we were all on a complete Shamrock Rovers are a disgrace. And look, here's the thing. Nobody will ever convince. Shamrock Rovers did not want to play that game. They played the European game on the Thursday night. We've seen the emails they sent to City fans who complained about it. And it was like, the referee should have called it off at 12:30. It was basically their comeback to City fans who were looking for who were complaining. Shamrock Rovers fans probably don't realise this, but they owe me a lot. They owe me a lot of thanks because, like, our inside man of Shamrock Rovers assures me that the last thing the players hear every day or every match day before they leave the dressing room to walk out onto the pitch, that's the last thing that's played in the dressing room.
That can't be true.
Is me going about, the mentality and they're gone and everything else. And then they walk onto the pitch. And, like, what are they? 9 games unbeaten? Now, is there 9 wins on the shot or whatever it is? Like,
is that true, Dick? Or are you just doing a Declan Carey on it and embellishing things a little bit?
Come on, for fuck's sake, how could it be true? I mean, like, just...
Do you know what? It could be. It does, if there's fans storing tweets and all that, they're obviously flying around WhatsApp.
It's 4 months later.
It is believable.
We're continually trying to subtly, not going, this is a complete wind-up, St. Pat's are all drug addicts. We're much more subtle than that. Like, we're way more subtle than that. Like, and they've sat in this for 4 months, and then they beat us 4-1, and they pull it out. And people in Sligo got it, and people in Cork got it, and it's gone all over the place. And I just sit here and laugh and say, lads, 4 months you were thinking about it. 4 months you were sitting on it, waiting for the right time to put it out there and get it out there,
And the bingo card, I get hit with the bingo card every single time.
Yeah, 4 months. Lads, we win. 4 months is a long time to be thinking about something. TOTAP 1, Shamrock Rovers fan base 0. No matter what way you want to play it. And the other thing to actually realise is, and I'm not sure people believe this when I say it, but I know you guys know at this stage, I genuinely don't give a shit. Like, I couldn't care less what they say, what they think, what they save, what they put out there. I say something and that's it. And done with it. I probably don't ever think of it again. I simply don't care. So
levels.
It didn't bother me in the slightest. Not in the slightest, like,
I know.
There's people in Sligo going, oh God, like, you said this. I did 4 months ago. And at the time, they had just called off a game. They'd taken the pitchfork off Team Troost on the pitch as he tried to clear the pitch, like, They didn't want the game to go ahead. So we don't know what's going to happen in 4 months' time. There and then, at that moment in time, they looked like a team whose mentality was gone. Argue with me, I don't care, but, like, as I said.
Funny thing about them, like, Bows beat them again there last night. Bows have their number so bad, though. It's ridiculous. Like,
it's a terrible league this year. I think it's gone, like, Shams will win it. There's no doubt they'll win it. They're winning a poor league. Hurrah. Congratulations.
They just haven't got the better of those derbies the last few years, have they? Like, it's, all the highlight reels. Anyway.
We'll talk about City now anyway. All right. City won. Draw had a 1. Win.
Yes.
You didn't rate it.
I didn't rate it at all. It was better, probably, yeah, because Drogheda pushed back. They defended a lot deeper after their goal. I think a few players have checked out. I didn't watch the goal again, but what I saw from it, I thought it was the wall's fault. I don't know, maybe Truce could have got to it, but I wouldn't put it to blame on 100%. Fitzpatrick's goal across for the goal was immense, but again, the celebration, it's bizarre. I don't understand the mentality. Maybe that's why the mentality is wrong. I don't know. You're just looking after your stats and your photograph more. But again, look, he scored 5 goals for us in his time, and to me, it was pretty bad. And I think we have a lot to improve on. But the problem is, these lads are gone in 6 days. With 2 players coming in, we probably have no keeper. because Conor Brand wasn't even on the bench on Friday. Am I right in thinking that? He was last night. So, yeah, I think we got lucky. If we had equalised in the last minute, all hell would have broken loose, and it would have been the same shit. What formation are we playing? What style of play are we playing? There was no. I couldn't see what we're trying to do last night. We got lucky. We basically bombarded the box. 4-4-2, got the ball in the box. Is what we did for the last 10 minutes, and it worked. Only because they panicked. I'm not as optimistic as Year. I think 8th is completely out of reach. 9th, I also think, is probably out of reach. I really do. Unless we get 6 or 7 players in, I don't see it. So we saw it last night. Just like,
well, we have 2 defenders in now, which is what we badly needed.
Yeah, we do, yeah. But like, is it too late now? Like, with 23 shots last night, can you remember any decent ones besides the goal? Like, I remember some pop shots from outside the box. I don't remember many decent ones.
We didn't have 23 shots on target. We maybe 23
shots
on goal, but yeah.
On goal,
yeah,
apologies.
It's different. Yeah.
That's what I meant, shots.
No, I agree with you. A lot of it was very poor. Like, we had all the shots. But listen, you got to realise, Drogheda averaged 34% possession. This is how they play. We were always going to have the ball. We were always going to have the majority of the football. It's what you do with it. And I just thought it was slow. It was monotonous. And I know people were saying, I thought we were okay and we worked hard and we tried hard and we had lots of shots. But as Wayne said, I can't remember their keeper being forced to make a genuine good save. There was 5 or 6 that were straight at him into his chest, easy saves. But I don't recall him having to make a great save. Team Trust made a great save. They had only 3 shots on goal in the whole game. But bit of individual brilliance from the chicken roll man or chicken roll boy or whatever. Like, he takes the paint off the inside of the post with a free kick. Truce makes a great save in the second half. I just thought it was one of those keep possession for possession's sake. But as Scotty said, what were we actually trying to do? What was the tactic? What was the game plan? And I didn't see it. We didn't move the ball fast enough. We didn't do things quick enough. And as Scotty says, very, very, very late in the game, we upped the tempo. We upped the pace. We got 2 balls in the box, basically 2 decent balls in the box all night. Josh Fitzpatrick puts a great ball in and Daniel scores. And then Mbeng gets one in there, and Shawnee maybe should have scored, maybe shouldn't have scored. I've only seen it live. I haven't had a chance to look back at the game, to be honest. So I can't really comment. It felt like in the Donny Ford, how do you not score? But then Deck says the ball was behind him, and it was, not so fair enough. But the tempo, lads, there's nobody in midfield setting a tempo. It's like Charlie to Anderson, out to a full back, into centre midfield, not back to Anderson, over to Lyons, back into midfield, back to a centre back. And eventually it kind of goes half long, or it goes out wide and goes out for a throw in, or 2 players running into each other, or the opposition take it off us. And when it's Drogheda, they just give it back to you. And Drogheda just say, all right, can you break us down? And they're very, very solid, and they know exactly, everybody knows their job, and they do it very well. And Scotty's right. If we don't score the last minute equaliser, all those who were saying, I thought we were okay, I thought we were quite good, are actually saying we're terrible. And I think the goal is clouding, as it always does in football, because goals matter. It was just, for me, it was about tempo and about pace and all things. And it was just so slow and so methodical. And I don't know how it changes. Like, the more I watch us, the more I like, obviously we have an issue with the back. If Daniels goes, we have an issue up front. I think we have a massive issue in the middle of the field. And which means we have issues everywhere, which makes things very, very
Jesus
difficult.
Christ, just put us down now.
Yeah. I'm sorry, before I finish, Deck mentioned Alec Nolan, and he's come off the bench on Friday night, and he actually got us further up the pitch, and he scored his goal, and Deck said, well, the positive is it might give him a bit of confidence. Man, how many minutes did he get last night? 0. Never came off the bench. So, do you know?
Disappointing. Yeah, look, the free kick, I know it took the paint off the inside of the post. I thought that was just that goal, I think, summed up the fact that like we just cannot keep a clean sheet. We just don't seem to have the mentality. Like Truce should be roaring at the wall. He should be, on it. Like, I remember was it a run in 2017 there where like McNulty or something went on a run there of like X number of clean sheets on the trot, and like we don't seem to have that kind of mentality where like the team are like fighting all over the pitch to not concede goals. And like that shot went over the wall, close range, he dinked it over, didn't have great pace on it. Like it just seemed like it, it just summed up our season. I felt that goal, and it looked great, brilliant strike from Farrell, like, and good skill to get it up and down over the wall and not going to take it away from him. But we should have prevented that. And again, just I suppose echo what the lads were saying. For the last 10 minutes, we seem to put Drogheda under pressure. I think they tired a bit. I think they're maybe the long drive down, defending for 80-85 minutes, trying to absorb everything, and but again, we seem to wake up for some reason towards the end when it looked like, again, like that we could grab the headlines by, scoring a last minute equaliser or whatever. It just seems like odd how we seem to play at home, especially. We seem to always do this, and it's worked. And look, we got a point out of it. Things could have been absolutely far worse. Would we have been 5 behind Sligo if Daniels didn't get that goal? So 4 is reachable. Again, the jury will be out. I think it all comes down to the partnership of like Fiacre and Feely. If they can work well together and give us our first clean sheet and instill that mentality that clean sheets now are just so important.
But sure, we might not even have a goalkeeper behind them. Like, sure, we saw what happened. What was it?
Lee Stacey,
23.
apparently.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, we've done enough looking back. Let's look forward. Pat's down in
let's
the
look forward. Yay, hope. Oh.
Yeah.
It's on TV again, is it? Virgin Media in town yet again.
You can expect. Is there going to be protests at this one again? Surely. Let's get.
We're not going to win this game. I tell you why, right? Because it's on TV. We have players who have checked out. If this game was Friday week, we'd win it. I think. We're going to lose this 2-0.
Is it because we're still dealing with the same squad and it's pre-window win?
Basically, yeah. I think if we can get this game postponed any way possible, honestly, I'm telling you, anything they can do in Usher Towers, just do it. Because if we have the game the week after, we have a chance. Just feed the players fucking raw chicken for a week. I don't care. Just get it postponed because we have a chance the week after. We don't have a chance this week.
I don't know what the rules are around that these days. But
give them on food poisoning. It's fine. Like that's the least they could do for the club for the last fucking 6 months of shit.
Turn across into pitch and puck club.
Let's do something. Because I'm telling you, if we had it next week, we'd win it. If we don't this week, I can't see how we're going to win this game.
Just turn on the sprinklers. Just turn on the sprinklers and tell everybody you don't have a grown man until 5 o'clock.
We could go down there and cause mayhem if they just make sure they know they don't, rat on us. Like what are we going to do? 3-5-2 again and just stop.
Dickie, if you're Jornash, what are you thinking now at the moment? Do you think?
What are you thinking? What am I thinking? Thinking, why did I take this job for the love of God? That's probably what I'm thinking.
That's why I was laughing. It was like, I was working on the continent. I was flying. I was progressing through my footballing career.
Like, he's in an awful spot, Dan, because like 5 games in, he hasn't won a game, has no experience of senior dressing rooms, managing senior players. It's just like, this is why I said it was no job for a rookie. Like, and it's just so difficult because there's no time to learn on the job. If we were a mid-table club looking to next season, you'd be saying, Grant, give him half a season now, he'll learn and then he, develop and we can have a look at how things work next year. He doesn't have that time. He doesn't have that ability to just learn on the job, and it's going to kill him. Like, it's going to kill him because, like, David Moyler was doing all the coaching last night. He was up and down the steps, and he has this thing where he goes up and he stands at the back of the steps. That's fine. That's his thing. If you're a fan looking on, it's probably not the greatest look, but it's hard to criticize him But at the same time, you have to, because we haven't won. And like, in my humble opinion, we look a worse side now than we did under Tim Clancy. Because we're still conceding goals, but at least under Tim we were scoring them. We've completely forgotten how to score goals.
Yeah.
In,
There's an argument for that though, Dick, just to be devil's advocate again, like as Wayne was saying, like, are there players checking out now that, you know, we're getting closer to the window and he's just a victim of the squad?
very
And,
much
you
so,
know,
but yeah,
look,
that may be
you
it.
know, we
That
are a
may
worse
be
team
it.
than when Clancy was there, but the players have gotten worse, even the same players. Like, it's quite extraordinary,
Yeah,
really.
but like the
Yeah.
opposite of that, then is a manager is supposed to come in and he's supposed to
I
be able to
know.
motivate and coach and set them up. Or if that's what's going on, then you just drop them. So you're better off playing a 17-year-old who wants to play rather than a middle-aged lad, or not middle-aged man, but, you know, a middle 20s lad who
He did it last Friday, though, didn't he? Didn't he?
whose
Drop
agent has spent
Lions.
2 months trying to get you moved to Shamrock Rovers or whatever. Like, you know, it's
Like,
just
he was trying to make an example of Lions last Friday. Like, he more or less came out and said it, that like he was dropped for reasons between myself and himself. Like, he seems to be trying to do those kind of things, I suppose.
yeah. No, look, that's fair enough. And
When is Couto back?
Oh, Jesus.
Is he out for the season? Like,
no. He like.
I'm sure we'll hear it this week's
week's
press conference.
Maybe the cup game. Maybe the cup game is probably
why
a
is
good
there no press
opportunity.
conferences?
Yeah, where are the press conferences? Just because we're shit, I'd say, and just want to run away. Your man's taking a piss so loud that he's like, it's going back to his thing on Riverside. Sorry, great entertainment. Would if you were in charge, Kerry, would you be having the press conferences at times like these?
Yeah,
You
absolutely,
have to,
Dan.
surely.
And
Let's just stop. The first time that you had a hard question asked, you fucked us out of the fucking press conferences.
what are you on about? You were
Yeah, you
wrecking
gotta-
Colin Healy's head, the poor fella. Jesus Christ, stop. Old Brian
Colin loves us,
Fantana
just
there.
stop.
Brian Fantana. Fabrizio himself there thinking he was, you know, you got me now, lads, after I had to drop off last week, so this is staying in. Decky's away now, so like he'll hear it when he's doing the edits. But yeah, no, we were well justified to do that. We still had the pressers though.
What did he ask that got him thrown out?
It was just hard questions. No, you know what? It was just normal questions, Dan. That was the thing. Normal questions. But I think the fact that we were slating them on the pod and then he went in being all Fabrizio, that's what the problem was. We're going to call him Fabrizio from now on.
Fabrizio Malo, isn't it? No, they call him.
Oh, God.
What are we expecting the attendances to be for this one?
2,500, I'd say.
I tell you, do you know what they should do? They're not going to do it. The club should drop the price by €15 to €15, right? And just try and fill it for the team's sake, to get them back on side or get more people in the ground to try and win the game. Drop the price, get people in there. You might only get 200 people in there extra, 300 people. Those 300 people could make a huge difference.
It's Wednesday now, Wayne. There's no chance of that happening. Like, just not.
I know, but look,
it's not going to happen. I got the club's newsletter there earlier, and it's like exciting weekend ahead or something like that. I was just like, come on, like, how can you try and like, look, they're trying. You have to try and market it and all that. But like,
I know, but sure, the best way of doing it is sticking a City player in a Boas jersey. Look, it's working. It's great.
Controversy creates cash. I always said it, but it is sometimes not that kind of controversy. But anyway.
Wayne, that one particularly did boil our piss going off the forum.
I didn't really. I saw it. I didn't put it on the forum. Then someone else did, and I was like, "Yeah, that's a Boas jersey."
What I don't understand is, Aaron, you magic erasered out the Boas crest. Why didn't you just magic eraser out the pattern and just have him in like a plain black top or a plain red thing? And it would have been fine. I mean, God, jeez, man.
In fairness, I'm sure he's under a lot of pressure.
I know. I'm still here if you need me, Aaron. I'm always here. Your chairman. I'm always here. Don't worry about it. Any advice?
Is this shit ever going to stop?
Decky, how many are you expecting the cross on Friday?
I think somewhere around 2,500. I think.
We were just actually discussing while you were gone taking a piss. Well, your new nickname is now Fabrizio on the pod.
Fabrizio Malo.
2, we were just wondering about the questions that you asked that got you kicked out of the press conference. The lads couldn't
Questions
remember.
that I asked that got me kicked out. No, it was to do with the 955, if I remember correctly, after the Cabinteely game. Because it was the next press conference then. And I mean, sure, look, what I didn't say on that 955 that night, like, do you know what I mean? I can't remember what I said, but I know I was absolutely steaming, like. But like,
it was hard for us to argue with Colin about that, to be honest. Like, look,
of course, but the only thing that frustrated us somewhat was that nobody would come straight out and tell us what the reasoning was. Like, it was all a bit
poor
cloak and dagger.
Poor Notes Spillane called us wet behind ears. One time we nearly tried to ban him from Turner's Cross.
It was a bit cloak and dagger stuff, like, you know. And I can remember, I'm actually recording I can remember pacing up and down this sun lounge here where I'm recording at the moment on the phone to Dave Alston, just like not roaring down the phone at Dave, but myself and Dave we were going at it, like, to a degree, you know. And eventually I figured it out. It's kind of like, you know, was it this, Dave? Was it that? Was it the other thing? And eventually it's like, okay, it was the 955 thing, Dave. Was it like, who made the decision? And I was like, well, if it's the 955 thing, then it had to be Colin. And Dave was like, well, you know, given a small bit of ground. And that's kind of how we figured it out. And it was fine. It was grand, do you know?
It was better for everyone.
It doesn't bother him, Declan. You know that. You know, it's never kept him awake at night at all in the last 3.5 years.
Not in the slightest. We always got on well with Colin. Do you know what I mean? You just
he was
went
very
like,
good to
you know,
us.
like, that's grand. And Colin came on one night, and the first night he was on the pod, and like there was one question asked that never made the pod.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
You know, and it was just, you know, we thought it was funny, and Colin didn't, and that was fair enough. But like, Colin spoke to us after that pod and pointed a few things out. Do you know what I mean? And gave us 20 minutes of his time and said, look, lads, this is how it's seen from the opposite side. And we always appreciated that. Like, you know,
He's
always
straight as a die deck, and he knew as well the importance of the podcast, and he you know, he was never going to alienate it, because he knew as well that the podcast had power and a voice of supporters and the back. Like, he got it. Like, that was it. There was never.
He was very good to us.
Yeah, in fairness, yeah,
you know,
and he'd tell you straight if he did.
But he did.
There's one thing about that fella.
Thing.
If he doesn't like you, he'll tell you straight out to your face, right in front of you, 6 inches away.
But I tell you this much, lads. Colin, I don't know. The first night Colin ever did anything with us, we were unaccredited, and we were down in Cove, and we were after winning below in Cove. And Colin was walking around the pitch afterwards. Obviously, the players were getting changed and whatnot. And there was a Garda barrier. And I was standing at the Garda barrier because I had to go down. I'd arranged to speak to Shane Keegan, I think it was at the time. And Colin was just walking. He came over and he roared up at me, "Did you enjoy that?" or something like that. And I was like, "Yeah, fantastic, Colin." You know, things. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Guards won't leave me down yet until all the City fans leave from that end, because I'm going up to talk to Shane." And he was kind of joking and smiling. And I said, "Will you talk to us, like, you know?" And he kind of thought, you could see it running through his head. Like, he was like, "Go on, so I will," you know? And I was like, "Grant, no bother." So the guards left me through, and I went up and around, and he came out and he did his stuff with the newspapers and the radio, Cork-based newspapers and radio and whatnot, like, you know? And was standing there and kind of a little giddy and whatnot, like, and I'm like, "Thanks very much, Carl, really appreciate this." And he's kind of going, "I hope no, it doesn't get us in trouble," like, because he knew we weren't accredited, like, you know, and the accredited lads then were looking on going, "Oh, what's going on here?" like, you know. So I said to him, trying to break the ice, thinking I'm funny and what, and I said, "Carl, if I start this interview now by telling you to your face how much I love you, will that will that be okay?" Whatever I said, thinking, I'm fierce funny, like, and he just looked straight through me, like, you know, just, "Don't you fucking dare," you know. Like, yeah, "Sorry, Carl, sorry about that, no matter whatsoever," like, you know. But yeah, he was always brilliant to us, like, you know, brilliant. So, but always appreciated he did that one down in Cove that night when we weren't accredited, and he took a chance.
Are we going to bring in the Kerry watch just to bring things back to footballing matters? How are they getting on? I honestly haven't been tracking.
They won, lads. We need to end the pod.
Yeah.
We just do the Pat's,
no violence on.
Pat's prediction here. Like, not a hope we doing watches of any other clubs from now on.
It's going close to 2 hours
Not
now.
a
Like,
hope.
So we'll be on Cove Watch next year, watching our Premier Division previews. But anyway,
right.
Wayne Mullins, you said 2-0.
Purely on the basis that the game is on Friday. If they get it postponed to next week, we win 2-0. That's my only.
That'll be next week's prediction then, though. So what's your prediction for Friday?
2-0 to Pats. But not the fault of Nash. Actually, no. 2-0 to Pats. Let's just say that.
Declan Carey.
2-0 to Pats.
Fabrizio.
What's this Fabrizio shit about?
Fabrizio Malo?
It's Carey getting you back for last week.
I missed that anyway. Okay, we'll okay.
Just like remember when I had to take a break last week and he slated me at the end? Yeah.
Okay, so when I listen back to the pod, I'm going to hear something. So while I was away, was it?
And you can't edit it
look
out.
Look forward to it. Pats are terrible. They're fucking terrible. We said it the last time we played them. They're boring. They're passive. They're like.
Shut the fuck up with you, for Christ's sake.
They're just, but they are terrible. There's no reason why we should fear them coming down to Turner's Cross. They're 8 games. They've won 1, which was 1-0 away at Sligo. But yet, it's just like, fuck it. We have to win sometime. We'll beat them 2-1.
Cork City 0, St. Pat's 5.
No, they don't have it in them.
They'll pin it to the wall now, Decky. Well done.
Can you let that up? All right, lads. It's time to say adios. But maybe before we do, Declan Carey, would you like to wish the TOTAPers a farewell? What would your last words be?
Do you know what, Dan? Like, just we can't give up. Like, it's not an enormous gap to Sligo. Look, we do know what's ahead of us. Try and finish ahead of Sligo, win the playoff. Like, that's the mission now. And look, protest whatever way you see fit. I'm sure that story will play itself out over the next couple of weeks, and I'm sure my sentiments will change maybe as well, depending on how things go against St. Pat's and as we build up to the FAI Cup game. But like, let's we're supporters at the end of the day. Like, that's what we're supposed to do, support. And I'm not trying to say, let's just be positive for the sake of it, but like, we can't give up now. It's still June and there's a long way to go, and we have to stay up. Like, we can't get relegated. Like, it's just
Jeez, you weren't wrong about the fucking WWE promo anyway. Wayne, fucking hell, how long are we here?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, look, you know me, I'm as pessimistic as the next person. I think we're going down anyway, so it doesn't matter shit what I say.
Short and sweet, lad.
I pray we're wrong. I really do. I do love the misery, but not with Cork. I love misery in life in general, but not with Cork City.
Double whammy too. Like, I could just see it now. Cork winning the All-Ireland in Croke Park last week of July, and we drift further to the bottom, and everyone's like, sure, them old soccer heads, they kill you. Why can't they be more like the hurlers? And I love the hurlers and whatever, but like, yeah, I could just see, do you know those, we all know those cringy heads that are just like, the hurlers are putting them to shame, aren't they? Like, oh God, go away, would you?
Do you know what? If we have 5 players in on Tuesday, which is the 1st of July, I think, isn't it? Is it Tuesday the 1st of July? If we have 5 players, if we 3 more in, little bit of hope. Get another 2 in then in the next week or 2. We're doing better than we did in 2023 by getting them in late. Get 3 more in by next Tuesday, and we have that little bit of a prick that they call hope.
You're not allowed to say that word. You can't call hope that.
Well, look.
He's already barred.
He's fucking out. Go.
Yeah, I know.
Last word goes to Declan McCormack.
Yeah, I was in Mallow train station this morning getting the train to work. There was no bunting.
What, Fabrizio, bye.
I came home today on the train and there's bunting up all over Mallow train, red and white bunting. And I just thought, I got off the train
bunting.
And I saw it. I just thought, you know what, no. The fucking bunting's up already. I'll be get baited out the door of Croke Park. For being just, so presumptive.
Losing to Dublin.
But anyway, in terms of ourselves, look, yeah.
We all said it last week, or there was the Rovers, like, so.
There's no giving up, like. There's
no giving up.
There's no giving up.
Prediction and hoping is different.
All right.
Like, how could you be so presumptive, like? Put up the bunting on a Tuesday. On a Tuesday as well, like. What's up bunting on a Tuesday?
That's the Mallow train station employee of the month for you.
Well, yeah, he's,
He's getting under your skin, lad.
He's annoying me, yeah. He's annoying me again. Fucking
Funny story,
Bunting.
Dick. When next time you're down at Mallow train station, you're on the platform and you're looking up at like some of the cabling and the tray and some of the wiring work that's down there. Just think of me. I was down there many a night working late nights back in my good old electrician days in Mallow train station.
Fair play.
So do you know
the day it burns down, so we know what's after. We know.
Yeah. I think there's been other electricians there after me since, but anyway, allegedly.
All right, lads, adios. End this car crash.
And what's your view? What's your words before you go?
Yeah,
I don't have any words. I don't have any words.
Dan, you, Mr. TikTok extraordinaire. I saw how many followers and views you have. Give us some of that shit.
Where's all the St. Pat's boys at? Come on, say it.
Not saying.
Do the line, Dan. Do the line.
I'm not saying anything until I'm not giving them a line until we fucking win the final this year. Even though no doubt they'll find one anyway. St. Pat's will beat us 3-0, I'd say. It's over.
They haven't scored 3 goals in the last 8 games.
Come on,
there you go. There you go.
I reckon they'll get one in the first half and then they'll score another one later on because our lads will have given up.
We'll beat them 2-1. We'll beat them 2-1. Remember when I was the negative one in this podcast back in the start when it was like, if we can scrape 8th, it'd be great. And that was negativity.
One last stat before we go, right? It's on the forum. Caulfield's second to last season. In one season, he'd won 18 Premier League division games. We've won 18 games in the last 7 years.
What did we say earlier about going back to people from yesteryear and all this stuff?
Saying it.
There was another one floating around today that said we've won 5 Premier Division games this decade.
Lads,
frightening stuff.
So you need to go to the shop before it
if
closes.
I wanted to go out there and get if I wanted to go out there and buy a Volvo Jeep with a credit card and run up a load of debts and go to the bank and say, give me a mortgage here, 700,000, and you look at me then and go, geez, Declan Kerr, he's doing great for himself with me. He has a brand new car, his house is fantastic, and then it gets repossessed then 2 years later.
See you later.
Miedo, amigos.